Okay, welcome everybody to another episode of Forever Bristol City podcast. It's 6 o'clock on Sunday. We've had an hour to reflect on a disappointing afternoon up at the Hawthorns, a rain-swept Hawthorns, where the final score was City 0, West Brom 2, or for the purist, West Brom 2, City 0. I'm joined by Dave Tubby, Mark Tubby, no relation, and Neil. We're going to go through the action, try and draw any positives out of the game that we can. But for me, it was awful. As I put on X, I can't think of any redeeming aspect of it at all. And it's now 5 points from 21. Not great. First of all, as we always do, I'll start first with you, Neil. 30 seconds. What were your thoughts when that whistle blew at 5-5?
Well, obviously we can go into it in a great depth in a bit, but I think everybody would acknowledge that it was a woeful performance devoid of passion, energy, desire, willingness. For me, there were certain things in the game that were symptomatic of where our heads are at the moment. I mean,
well, ask where that is.
Where the team's heads are, where the players' heads are. You know, Dickie in the first half can just pass back to Max O'Leary. He doesn't. He tries to do a little kick out to there. We take a booking there.
Yeah.
And then Pring, second half, I'm hacked off with all of this. Just pulls the guy off, gives another booking there. Knight goes over and shoves over the guy. Another booking there.
Yeah.
And our heads today, collectively as a team, out there,
gone.
Just didn't seem that we had a willingness or a desire or a focus to actually achieve anything in that game.
Good summation there, Dave. Your thoughts, just encapsulate, brief 30-second view on the 90 minutes.
We talk about progression, but part of progression is learning your lessons. And what did we see today? We saw Twine in a hybrid role, which hasn't worked and didn't work again today. We saw Fally in a position that we can talk about whether he's good enough, but the last time he played there was against Blackburn with Twine in that role, repeating the same mistakes.
Yeah.
We even had a couple of attacking free kicks where they broke on us because our setup wasn't right. I mean, what more do you need from literally a week ago? Come on. We're not learning our lessons. We are attractive on the ball where it doesn't hurt anybody, and we are a team that doesn't learn.
Okay. Mark, was there anything quintessential about the performance that caught your eye?
You'll never get that on Countdown. It's too long.
I wouldn't get it on Scrabble either.
Quintessential? I thought extrapolate was bad enough. No, it was, I think there's shocking lack of urgency, any confidence, structure. We can appreciate that City had to make changes with Armstrong injured, Wells carrying a knock. We had to play Mayulu because there wasn't anybody else unless we played Sam Bell up front. But we looked like we were playing a 4-4-2 in the first half because Bird was pushed up alongside Mayulu. But I think they probably had to be reintroduced at half-time because they looked like complete strangers. Poor touch on the ball. Press easily passed through by West Brom. And they won the game with ease in the end and could have won 4 or 5-0 and been for some poor finishing. Yeah. The only player that came out of the game with any credit was Yu Hirakawa, who showed more intent for his 15-minute cameo than any of the other players put together. Horrible going into the game against Luton, a game that we're expected to win. There's going to be pressure on the team, pressure on Liam Manning, and it doesn't look great.
Well, we'll talk about pressure on the manager. We're often accused on here of knee-jerk reactions and what have you, uninformed knee-jerk reactions. But let's look at the lineup. Neil, Mark said there were changes, quite right. Maguire and Twine coming in for Hirakawa and Earthy, and obviously Max was out, Max Naki was out, which gave Mayulu the chance that everybody was calling for. But Mark, you just said there was nobody else who could have come on other than Mayulu. But Neil,
yeah, it's like the guy when you pick the five-a-side team at school, Yeah. Well, yeah, I suppose you better play then, because the commentator said that the City fans rate him highly. I don't know which City fans. If you could please tell us who you are, so we could feel sorry for you. I don't know who they are or where they live.
Well, I was going to say about the commentators later, but Neil,
sorry,
Neil, Cornick can't have a future at a club. I mean, he'll never put a City shirt on again, will he? He didn't even make the match day 20.
Well, there's obviously some impetus between getting him out on loan next month, I would imagine.
Yeah.
It's the best for both parties because he doesn't want to be sat on our bench for the rest of the season. But the bizarre thing about him this year is that he's been on the bench and he's never actually come off the bench. And yet, there are times last year, in fairness to him, there were some performances from Corning last year. Is he the answer?
Yeah.
No, he's not the answer. But he is an option. He is an option. And surely he is a better option to be on our bench today. Unless the relationship is broken down to such a degree, or that he's picked a knock up or whatever. But today, of all days, you're talking about putting a young lad who has struggled, Mahelu, up front by himself. Okay, who are we going to come on to back him up? Or if it's not working, who are we going to bring on? Sam Bell.
Whoopie-doo.
As a nine.
Whoopie-doo.
As a nine.
Yeah, but Brian Tinian has said Sam Bell could play as a 9.
But
that's in open conversation. That's not hearsay. I've heard him say that.
He's not a 9. I'm happy to say he's not a 9 in relation to, but I think with it, you're there today, and the subs bench, the whole sort of makeup on it, with the 4 fullbacks on it. Half the bench is 4 fullbacks, and then you've got Elijah Morrison, maybe. But then with it, you start Anis on the right hand side.
Yeah, but that's to accommodate. I'm not going to call him Twiney, right? Or I'm not going to insult him by calling him Turkey Teeth anymore. I'm going to call him Twiney.
You do.
Dave, you look at the lineup and look at the bench, right? Atkinson, 8 successive game on the bench, not used at all. That's not a case for him coming on. But what did you think when you looked at that lineup and the shape of the side? And the bench I thought looked strong. I know it had that bias, but you could almost put a second back 4 on there, couldn't you?
Well, look, Twine in that position was just no. And I was trying to be generous and let's see what's going to happen, but you're setting a team up to fail. And to give you an example, in the 3rd minute, they take a short throw in and their player has an eternity to put a cross in. And it's either because the team is sleeping or there is a lack of clarity. And in my opinion, it's a bit of both, because when people don't know exactly what they have to do, or they're trying to cover too much for other people, they make more mistakes. He should not be in that position. Sure, you can make an argument to move Mehmeti to the other wing and you bring in Bell or you bring in Morrison. It makes more sense, because when I looked at that team, it was, where are the runners? We had one. Who else was running beyond Fally? Who else was pushing that pitch, making it bigger? We had one player doing it. He had a couple of decent crosses in Mehmeti, but nobody else. And that was the problem. And instantly, that team today was set up to fail. Nobody really shined, but they were not put in a position where they could succeed.
Okay, let's get into the action. Before we do, for what it's worth, my view, I thought West Brom were bang average. They looked like a side that I think had drawn 9 out of the last 12. I think they got the 4th best defence in the division, if I heard that correctly. But they weren't all that. And I was expecting quite a bit more from Josh Madger, the sort of forward that we were linked with in days gone by. He didn't put in much of a performance. I do like Swift, the midfielder that was ex-Reading. It was his first game for a while, I believe. And then in a manager, Carlos Corberán, they have got a guy that does know this division. And I know it was on the, well, not I know, he's been linked with jobs like Southampton and what have you, although he's not got that one. Although who would want that particular job? Neil, getting into the action, we didn't start particularly well. It was chucking it down with rain. Swift, I mentioned him a minute ago, first shot, cannons off Max's chest. Max has had his critics, but he didn't do anything bad today, did he? I don't see his distribution being particularly bad, but yeah, they were all over us to begin with.
That's Max, though, isn't it? Max is a 6 out of 10 championship keeper. He's okay. He's a solid championship keeper. I know a number of the points on the previous podcast, and they're exactly bang on. The thing is, this year his mistakes have cost us at crucial times, and that is, how many points you can put down to lost points. We're up there, aren't we? With points lost from winning positions. One of the worst in the league in that regard. That, for me, within 2 minutes, showed the intent, the difference between the teams. Short free kick, No one's anywhere near it, and he advances 5 or 10 yards, kick in. It's pissing down with rain. Ball's going to skid off the ground and all the rest of it. It just shows intent right from the word go. We weren't on it. I sent that thing to you after about 10 minutes, didn't I? 93% possession they had.
In the first 10 minutes.
93% possession in the last 10 minutes. We just weren't.
First 10 minutes.
First 10 minutes, I do apologize. You know, we just weren't on it. We just weren't on it the last first. That's not to say that they were all over us and there was just chances. We can put 2 passes together the first 10 minutes. It just, when I've taken teams and I've coached teams in the past with my teams, I say, you know, the first 5 or 10 minutes is so indicative of a game because it shows the intent. It shows whether a team is up for it, up for the challenge. And the opposition team that you're playing against will know in those first few challenges, will know if they're given the time, the pressure, and all the rest of it. And it just sets you up for the rest of the game, those first 10 minutes, even though they didn't score from it.
Yeah.
Dave, how much of that do you think is because the players weren't mentally on it versus how they were set up to play and not being able to do the jobs they were asked to do? How much responsibility would you put at the players versus management in terms of that first 10 minutes?
Well, I think there's some strange things going on, Dave, with the team at the moment. I mean, Max Bird, the last few performances, he's a good player, but he's been the last 2 away games, he's been taken off at half time. You know, and he's not good. And Fally today, whatever they're working on the thing, you know, these long diagonal balls where we're looking for Pring to head it on, and Fally and him are going for the same balls, or the ball's going on and Pring's going up for the header, and Fally's, you know, 6 yards behind him, and if Pring gets a flick on it, there's nobody there. And his reading of the game was all over the place, and it looked today for me as if the forward line had no confidence in Fally. Almost, you know, they didn't look to sort of include him in the way that they're doing it and sort of moving it around, but it just looked an incoherent mess in the front four.
Dave, develop that point. What you want to say?
No, I agree with what you're saying there, because I think in terms of Bird, I actually think he played well in the first half, but I think the biggest issue for him was every time he picked up the ball, he had nowhere to go. It was like he's picking it up, looking for options, and there was nothing. There was no one in behind. Mehmeti occasionally was getting there, but what was coming down the left? What was Fally doing? And if you're playing in that number 10 role, you need options. And he just didn't have them. And I think that I was surprised when they took Bird off, because in my opinion, he was one of the better players in the first half, at least trying to make something happen, even if he wasn't successful. But back to the first 10 minutes, in my opinion, the biggest issue is back to setup. And I know I'm repeating myself because I've already said it, but if you don't set a team up correctly, West Brom were bang on it. And it's almost like we were looking like, who's doing that? Who's doing that? Okay, who's here? You can't have that at championship level.
Okay, Mark, you have a say on that. And we say the setup. We're going to come on and we're going to be talking about Manning at some length, I would imagine, towards the end of this episode. But the setup and the conditions, you know, we don't like the wet weather, do we? It was almost similar conditions to what we had at Portsmouth a couple of weeks ago. And we were weak, weren't we? And what did you think of Bird's performance, Mark?
I agree mostly with what Dave said. I don't think he was that bad in the first half. I think the problem is there's nobody looking for the ball. So he's got no options in front of him. Mayulu's not searching for the ball. And a good striker, if he can't get the ball, he will drop deeper and try and find it and link up. He only did that in the second half, maybe at the beginning. But there were just no runners, and West Brom was sat in quite comfortably into their with a back three, with a 4 in front of them, and they were just really comfortable, and they battered away any of our attacks with ease. Some of the crossing was poor, just high crosses to the back post that Pring headed up in the air. Goalkeeper and defenders getting away with some really soft fouls for pushing. I think Mayulu just backed into one of their players. I think Viner had one. You know, it was just poor wing play. But I think the major problem we had, and I think we showed this against Derby and perhaps Blackburn early in the season, maybe not Blackburn, but Derby, is when you try and accommodate Twine and Bird into the same team, playing Twine wide, and I think somebody else has alluded to this in the text, is if he pushes inside, leaves a great big gaping hole that exposes Cam Pring. And when you've got 2 good players like Tom Fellows and Mikey Johnson, it really kills you. And as the first half progressed, that's what they did. They just pushed the ball down the channels and got behind us with ease.
No, they did. One that you said after Dickie had fouled, I think Swift set up Barkley, who headed over. Right, I want to come on to an incident that could have gone in our favour, and know what a petulant little character he is. I'm surprised he didn't throw himself on the ground, but at 26 minutes, Twine goes into the penalty area with the benefit of Sky coverage, saw that 2 or 3 times. There was contact, but instead of going down, he tried to correct it when he normally throws himself over on every other part of the pitch. Was that a pen if he'd have gone down?
I thought it was a pen.
You thought it was a pen? Why didn't he go down? He's a drama queen most of the time.
I mean, can we talk about Twine for a moment then?
Is this
a relevant moment to talk about? God. I went up to Derby this year, saw us away at Derby, and the way Derby played him was like brilliant. It's exactly what Mark was just talking about before, about the channels, and Dave was talking about the channels, and how Twine leaves Pring completely exposed on that side. You know, he comes inside. He's supposed to stay out left. He doesn't. He comes inside, just leaves Pring 2 against 1. The thing with Twine is you give him a bit of a kick, you give him a bit of a punch, you get into him, you ruffle him up, he loses his head. He loses his head. And his whole performance just goes completely to pot. I've seen it now in at least half a dozen games where if you're an opposition manager, you just say to your player, just leave one in on him a little bit. Just, give him a bit of a nudge. Be a bit over physical with him, and he cannot.
So why didn't he go down? That's the question.
On that thing there, I think it's quite an essential thing with Twine is, I just need a bit of time to get on my right. I just need a bit of time to get on my right. He's so preoccupied with getting the time and the space to get on his right that often, he wants too much time. He wants too much time. You give him the time and space.
Yeah.
Look at his last 2 goals for City. Well, not the last, because the Millwall game as well, but the 2 free kicks. There's a technique there. There is a talent there. But in Championship football, you're not going to have the time, the space to actually do it. He's not got the pace. He's not got the physicality. And he wants too much time on the ball. And really, we've got an issue with him. I would say moving forward.
Do you think he's another one?
When he wasn't playing, arguably, we go back when he was injured.
We play better without
him.
All right, contentious. Dave, was it a penalty? But the fact that he maintained himself on 2 feet, the referee didn't even have to make a decision, did he?
Well, first of all, it really frustrates me because whether or not he goes down, it's a penalty. There is enough contact there that it should be a penalty. And we complain that players fall over all the time. Well, are we surprised? If you're not giving that as a penalty as it was, well, then of course you have to go down. But what I don't understand is why he stayed on his feet. In my opinion, it was a penalty. But if he's staying on his feet, that suggests to me that he didn't think there was enough contact to be a penalty. And that's the only reason that I can see why he stayed up. Because he had every reason in the world just to fool. And he's like, I'm going to stay on my feet. But the ref should have given a penalty anyway. But it doesn't make sense to me why you would stay up.
No. Mark, Thomas Kirk, the referee, not one that I've heard of before. But that was we talk about the professional foul and players throwing themselves on their ground to get free kicks and obviously penalties. But, for a player that does like to throw himself on the ground when he's tackled in the final third, not necessarily in the final 18 yards, but, he got even to have to make a decision, didn't he?
Yeah, Malumbi definitely got him on the shin. I think it was on a running battle of Malumbi through the game, and Jason Knight, who's his midfield partner for Republic of Ireland as well, because he was putting it about. But Neil's exactly right. He's so easy to wind up, Scott Twine, but he's not justifying his feet. But yeah, he got a kick on the shin. He could have gone down. It wasn't enough. But I think he thought he could stay on his feet and still take the shot. But yeah, he could have gone down and got a penalty. There's no VAR in the Championship. Some referees may have done it, but unfortunately, we're talking about that because there wasn't much else to talk about really. But he should have gone over.
Interesting about VAR, Mark, and I'm asking you because I don't know the answer to this, but if that is a Premier League game and the referee doesn't give it, would VAR call up the referee on that? Because we didn't even appeal. If we're a competitive team, which is what we're saying, there's that lack of I was chatting to a guy who'd been to the game, driving on the way home, and he said we're without winners. And he also talked about the away fans being quite benevolent. I'll develop those points later. But Mark, what happens with VAR there?
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, VAR might look at it and say, unless there's a clear and obvious error from the referee, then it's not a penalty. There's no grounds to overrule it. So the on-field decision should be correct, although some VAR recently hasn't really stuck to that rule. But I think that is the ruling. So unless it's a clear, because I think they changed the decision making, so there's no clear and obvious error from the referee, is on-field decision should stand.
Staying with you, Mark, and this is at the request of Neil, that you are very eloquent the way you describe the goals. And today, the first goal on 33 minutes, you're going to describe it in the style of Brian Butler of Radio 5.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Something like that. Yeah. So take us through the goal. I've not stolen your thunder by describing any aspect of it, but take us through that first goal.
Well, City lose the ball in transition, which became a recurrent theme through this game. Tom Fellows powers down the right. He's got it in the right wing position near the corner flag against Scott Twine, who doesn't put any pressure on the ball. He's got Campering behind him for some unknown reason. He's given ages to cross the ball, great cross. And Mikey Johnson manages to walk between Zach Viner and Rob Dickey and just head the ball downwards into the net. It's an easy goal. West Brom has only scored 8 goals at home this season before today's game. That was an easy goal. Bad defending, no pressure on the ball from Twine, a bit like he was against Cardiff when Ollie Tanner just ran past him and Anis Mehmeti, and we're 1-0 down.
Dave, what did you think of it? I mean, two things. Mark's described it in some detail there, and you can talk about the what Twine did or didn't do in there. But and Mark said Mikey Johnson was unmarked when he came in, and should somebody have been going with him, or was it the defender? Was it the central defenders?
It's what happens when you put players out wide that shouldn't be there. When I was in my youth, in my younger days, it was very obvious. Player gets the ball out wide. You don't let a ball come in of that quality. You don't let them get to the byline and cut it in. They could do anything else, but not that. You do not let a delivery. And it was so easy. And surprise, surprise, you give a player that much space, you let the player do what they want, and they're going to whip it in and they're going to score. Yes, we can argue about having too much space in the middle, but runners kind of do that. Attackers moving around kind of create the space. It's by design. We do it ourselves. But the ball should not be coming in with that level of quality so easily. And in my opinion, it starts because Twine is there and he shouldn't be. And quite what's happening with him in Pring not set up correctly, that's part of the problem.
We keep using that term setup. Your thoughts on the first goal, Neil?
For me, Tom, he's a good player, fellas. Good wide player. Good busy player. For me, Pring took that silly booking earlier on, about 5 minutes beforehand, 5-6
Yeah, he just pulled the guy back. He pulled the guy back.
He took that silly thing. Now you've got, second half, the guy running at you. And in the back of your mind, you're on a yellow. So first half, apologies. You've got a guy running at you. You put yourself on a silly yellow already by your ill discipline. And then he's thinking, well, if I get too tight, if I foul, it's a second yellow, I'm off. So in the back of his mind, he's on a yellow and he's got a runner running at him. He doesn't get tight enough, anywhere near as tight enough as normally Pring gets in that situation. And Fellows is able to get it, no pressure on the ball. But where was the marking in the middle?
Yeah,
he comes from deep.
Is he a runner? Is he a runner? That's what I was alluding to.
He's a runner down the centre. I mean, how tall is Mikey Johnson? I mean, it's akin to like us with Knight, isn't it? Knight's 5'8" and is great in the air. But he's come from outside the area you're in, and we're just static. We're zonal marking in the middle with it. And he's come in as a runner, and not one of the midfield guys has gone in with him. Really, he's come out and then he's come in deep.
Yeah, we raised our game a little bit after that, Mark, and it was what I would say a half chance. We'd actually put Mehmeti on the left because we'd started him on the right, and he put in. I think it was. I don't know whether it was a cross or a corner, but at least McNally got a save from their keeper, didn't he? I mean, that would have been, well, against a run of play if we'd got an equaliser then. But for me, McNally is the only one of the four that started today that I think is on top of his game.
Yeah, I think he's generally looked a lot better. I mean, he's the ball goes beyond the far post, and he heads, the Palmer's near post, and he protects it with his hand. It's a fairly routine save, and he just pushes it over the top. But yeah, I mean, that was only one or two shots we had on target in the entire game, I think, and it just showed you what poor fare that we had. Good cross by Mehmeti, and not a bad header, but really he's never going to let that in. A keeper, no. I think that's probably I think that was his 11th clean sheet of the season. So they got the fourth best defence in the league. Hard to beat Sheffield Wednesday and Burnley, who hardly give any goals away. I think they've only given away about 10. But yeah,
Dave, do you agree with my view that right now McNally is the only one of the four that is on his game? And I'll hold my hands up. I thought, oh God, when we signed him, but he's proved to be quite a good player. I think Zach's game is suffering because he's played in a right back role that we know he can play. But when you've got McCrory and Tanner on the bench, could there have been a tendency to change it? But back to the point, McNally, the best of the four at the moment.
First of all, on the chance, I think it could be argued, and it's easy with hindsight, that he kind of saw the likes of Broadway and the goal, coming. There's an argument that he was a better option was to cut it back because we had men free. And if you cut that back instead, there's a much better chance of a goal, because to score from that angle is very, very difficult. But at the same time, I appreciate that it's easy to say that looking at a replay. But it's like the header wasn't the right choice there, because to beat the keeper from there is very, very difficult. In terms of the two centre-backs today, I thought Dickey was very, very good on the ball, not so good off of it. And as a tandem, I don't think they worked very, very well in commanding the team. Like, where was the leader? Where was the leader at the back? Where was the structure of like, right, guys, bring this in, enough is enough? And it needs to come from one of them, and I just didn't see that today. I didn't necessarily see it. And you can't look at those two and say, oh, they played really, really bad. But I don't think it worked well off of the ball with those two today. But at the same time, they didn't exactly have help.
No. Okay, second goal. And it gives you a mountain to climb in the second half. It comes 2 minutes before the break. Neil, I mean, it was a goal of, was it a goal of class? I mean, it looked good, but he was just given so much room, wasn't he?
It was a very sort of like Anis Mehmeti type goal, really. Actually, sort of
cut in,
and
Mauer to Johnson,
finished, but again, it just goes to our sort of lackadaisical, really. I didn't see, Zach there. I think he's got to make a decision. Either he comes, he's got to close him down, isn't he? He knows he's coming in on it. He's allowed to travel, what must it be, 20, 25 yards before he's actually dribbled into the box.
Yeah. And Zach's the most right position defender, because when you see it from behind the goal, it looks even worse, doesn't it?
Yeah, so if you're there, and if you're defending and somebody's coming out, if he'd have got to about 20 yards just outside the box and then curled it in, but I think he curled it in from about 15.
He did.
And then it was we were so, and Zach is bad to such a degree that I don't think Max could actually get sight of it, because he used Viner getting closer and closer and closer to actually bend it round.
Yeah.
It's good for him.
Yeah.
But it was
a training ground. It was almost like a training ground goal.
It was
curls it in.
It was a passive goal to just concede.
Yeah.
Passive goal to concede.
Dave, do you agree with that? The goal, or your thoughts on the goal? And I'll come to you in a second, Mark.
If only we had two right backs on the bench that could have done a job. Like when you're putting Viner there, it's really easy to say, oh, Viner can play on the right, he can do a job. We had two fullbacks fit enough to start on the bench. You're putting Viner in a position where it's almost like he's forgotten that he's actually supposed to be out on the right in that moment. Yeah. And both goals are poor choices. The first one, we've let the cross come in. The second one, when you need them to go out wide, is, hey, cut inside. And you can see from Viner's position, he's trying to say, go here, but he's so poorly set up because he was passive in going to meet him that the player's just gone, thank you very much, I'll use you as your shield. And as Neil said, there's nothing that Max can do. It's poorly defended, but it's just, there's just so many errors. He's got too much space to begin with. Like, if you look at where Viner is when he gets the ball, where's the help in front? Where's the midfield? And
no, there was
very,
nobody
very
there,
poor.
but there was nobody helping. Where was the person coming across as he cut his way around?
Exactly. It's across the board. Viner is the poster boy for that mistake, but it's a team thing. It's not people not helping and people focusing on themselves. And then, yes, it's poorly defended, but it shouldn't be in that position in the first place.
All right, Mark, you put your hand up there. Before you say what you're going to say, you might like to pick up a couple of the text comments there. Chappers17 has said, drop Viner. Neil Pocock said, Viner hasn't got the basics there, can't tackle and never goal side. But what were you going to say, and what do you say to those comments that have come up there?
I think Twine loses the ball high up, and they pass through the press easily again, and Johnson's free down the left. Now he's got a possible pass to his left. He's got an overload, but Viner just stands off him, so he puts no pressure on the ball. I mean, it's going to be harder for the guy on the left-hand side. He'd have to cross the ball. There's no way he's going to be able to shoot from there. But Viner stands off and gives him the option. But McNally next to Viner doesn't close the space down. We're too narrow, so they got that option, and he just curls it into the net. But it's as bad as it's as easy for Johnston as Mehmeti was up against that Plymouth right back last week. Viner's not a right back. He's only playing there for circumstances, but why play him there when you have McCrory? He's more naturally right-sided. He's probably more of a wing back because of his directness, but he could have played there from the start. And then you just got the choice of you play Viner and Dickey or Dickey and McNally. Probably Viner and Dickey, because I think they're both. Is Dickey left-footed? McNally's definitely left-footed.
They were there last year together. We had the fourth best defence primarily.
Yeah,
Dickey and Viner playing in a back two. I mean, Viner is such a confidence player, isn't he?
Yeah, he did the same thing a couple of weeks ago against Portsmouth. He let Josh Murphy have so much time to play the cross into the box that eventually, even though McNally and Max made a complete pig's ear of the cross in, he just gave him too much room. Just don't show him on his good foot. So give him the room, just close him down, go up close and push him out wide, make it hard for the cross to come in. You don't have to tackle, you just have to slow the player down by pushing him out wide onto his wrong foot, but giving the guy a chance to shoot. Similar, I mean, it was similar in a way to the goal Blackburn scored, the third one they scored against us. We just backed off. Yeah. If you back off, the forward will shoot, because you've given him a window of opportunity, and he took it really well.
All right.
I don't get the Viner right back issue today with you've got two right backs on it. If you're saying McCrory can't do a full 90, or Tanner can't do a full 90.
As somebody's put that on the text, you play them half each.
Why would you play Zach out of position when you?
Well, he's like you said. I think he's lost confidence.
Yeah.
But if what Neil is saying there, like if you're saying a player is a confident player, it makes sense to put them in positions where they are most confident as often.
Yeah, he's making too many errors there. I think he did. I think the same a few seasons ago with Isaiah Jones up at Middlesbrough. Gives wide players far too much space to come inside when he's a right back. Doesn't seem to have that problem when he's playing the right side as right-sided centre back. Even when he's pushing out.
All right.
But yeah, I mean that's the reason why he's, this is his level. But it was poor judgment, not putting pressure on the ball. Another bad defensive mistake. Good finish by Johnston, but it was too easy for him.
All right, let's we talk about the substitutions. We get into the second half, and again, 6 minutes into the second half, I couldn't believe it when it was 5-on-3 at one point. We're on the attack and it breaks down. Dave, I mean, that was just, they should have made more than that, shouldn't they? And Johnson should have tucked that away for his hat trick.
It was very, very poor. It's not exactly what you want to see in the 50th minute, and it's not like you can say it's come from us being really, really unlucky with something or creating a chance or really, really bad. It's just knife through butter. It's just after you, sir, on you go. And whatever changes were supposed to be made. I was trying to figure out the formation we were playing, and by that moment, I still hadn't actually got to the point of where is everybody.
Yeah.
And it was just a very, very poor start that didn't, it was disappointing to see, because you're just saying to yourself, come on, now's a reaction. Now is a time for a reaction. And
But
it didn't
never
come.
happened.
It didn't
It never
come.
happened. Neil, let's talk.
Yeah, I mean, just before that, obviously, Fally had his shot that you haven't spoken about.
Oh, he did.
He did.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
A
he
little
did.
shot. A little soupçon of a shot, wasn't it?
No.
I'm sorry. Can we just stop, viewers and listeners? David used quintessential and soupçon. Now, is this MasterChef or is it?
Yeah, soupçon.
The first 5 minutes of the second half, actually, for a period of about 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
This
Stroll. Here's your stroll.
95 minutes, and I'm talking about 2-3 minutes. We actually strung 3 passes together. But the point is that for that time, Fally had a bit of a shot. Then Knight, got in the box, had a touch, and you're just thinking, right, okay, are we actually going to have our 5-10 minutes energy? And then they went up the other end, like you just.
And it was 5 on 3, and that was it.
And then it was like, and that was it for the game, really.
To point out, even on the Fally shot, I forget which of our players were with him that made a run, and it was begging for a pass to be put through. He didn't even look like taking it, and it was, what am I going to do now? Well, I guess I'm going to shoot. And it was like, okay, Fally's done something, but it wasn't like by design of some good move or him. It was just there, take a shot, and we know that he can actually score goals. We've seen it happen. He just doesn't look ready to be playing as a striker at this level.
He
doesn't play with any intensity, does he? Sorry, Neil.
That's
it. Go on.
No, you
Neil.
go.
No, after you.
He didn't play with any intensity.
Neil.
Oh, this is novel. Us allowing each other.
Yeah,
to talk.
well, he does.
But
Neil, just you wait.
Neil.
Just you wait there, young man.
No, I'm playing the Fiona Armstrong role here.
I just said I messaged Dave during the game. Dave,
what was it? Help.
I said Fally looks like a competition winner out there. He looks like he's won a competition to play up front for Bristol City today. Because
George Weah's cousin came out again on the floor.
Yeah, Ali Dia. But it was just out there. I'm sure there is a player.
Well, he was scouting significantly.
There is a player.
Is he the one that was physically watched 40 times, we're led to believe?
Yeah.
If you remember,
it comes back to Morecambe and Wise, Grieg's piano concerto that on the following day. He's playing the right notes, but not necessarily
in the right order. Yeah, you've used that one before, Mark. Dave.
It was the little things like I was saying about when the ball was coming, the long balls from Viner that we can, the diagonals they hit. When Fally's actually going for the same ball that Pring is going for, and things like that, you're thinking the structures, and when the ball's coming into him, and actually he's got a bit of space and time and looking for the, his understanding of how we were playing as a team. He looked like somebody who'd been signed 2 days ago, and probably signed from, whatever they're doing.
Back on United.
When the ball is on the diagonal, Fally, Pring's going to look to head it on, and you're going to be running in behind. Got it? Right, brilliant. You go into the game, and he's running around.
Lost.
He looks
lost. All right. Dave, did you have a point to add there?
Yeah. A few weeks ago on the pod, I said that what are we going to do if Wales gets injured? And there is an argument to be had that, Wales had a good start since he's been playing, but even he's dropped off in terms of scoring goals recently.
Yeah.
Today, we've seen what it looks like when Wales is not fit. Fally doesn't look like he suits the system that we're trying to play at all. Because when I watch it, I see a guy that likes to come shorter, likes to play with it at his feet. And yet that is the one thing that we do not need in that side. For all Armstrong's faults, you can at least see why he does it. What Wells brings is the intelligence, the movement. Fally's not up to that speed yet. It makes absolutely no sense why we have signed him to do this job right now. And believe me, I am not saying there's not a player there, but a striker that we need today, he's just not the answer, or the question is wrong.
Or one for the future, as we kept being told. Into the second half, we talked about most of the action there. I think Diagana, with 3 minutes to go, set up Devante Cole and showed a finishing prowess that doesn't look like he's inherited his father's good touch. What a player he was for Bristol City. Madger got taken off as well late on for the Baggies, the Boing Boing Baggies as they're called. Let's look at the substitutions and the timing of the substitutions. You first, Neil. I mean, at half time, he could have made a triple substitution at half time, but he did McCrory for Bird. And then with 20 minutes to go, which really isn't enough, off went Mayulu, Mehmeti and Twine, and on came Bell, Yu and Earthy, you know, a little short front three there of sorts. But what do you think of the manager's substitutions today?
I just think with his substitutions, obviously there is the, you know, manning time, which is 60 minutes or whatever in relation to his substitution time. But he had Fally out there for 70 minutes when all of us could see it wasn't going to work in that sort of structure. But then he replaces like for like by putting Bell there. And however much Tinian turns around and says, oh, you know, Bell could easily be a number. He's not a number 9. He's not going to be a link-up player. He's not going to be a guy that is going to lead the line by himself. So you're 2-0 down, 70 minutes in. It's not really working with Fally. There is a player there, but it's not. Why do you bring him off and then bring Bell on? And then a player that has never played that position before, but if he has, it's only for a short few minutes or whatever. And his substitutions generally are just like for like. He's so structured in his approach and the way that we're actually playing. It's like when we're actually trying to impress ourselves on the team, and when we get like 30 yards, we are easy to play against, aren't we? Because we stop and we look to pass it wide. We stop and we look to pass it wide. And that goes to the very heart of that thing after 2 minutes, you know, the swift, short free kick, shot.
Yeah.
We just don't do unpredictable, do we? We do predictable. The way our approach on that field is so predictable that everybody knows how we are going to play when we get the ball and what we are going to do, because the analysts have looked at us. They know what we're going to do. And to such a degree that we had that time in the second half when McCrory's gallivanting down
and he stopped. He stopped. That was just the point I was going to make. 85 minutes when there's still 10 minutes to get a goal and make it a frantic last 5 minutes or something like that. And he burst through. I didn't think he had the best of games when he came on, but he literally stopped in the centre circle. It was like a horse getting at the front of the race and then stopping. And what do I do next? And I think
the commentator said he had nobody. He had no players in front of him. I mean, we didn't get to see
exactly, but that gets back to the point about having runners and people going forward. Where was the appetite? Where was it? Where was Sam Bell? Because he's so quick on his feet. But Dave, we were talking in the middle of the week about players and options. I mean, this manager, he says he tells the players, you know, when they go over the line, it's all down to them. But you've just said, Neil, about their you know, everything's to a formula, a process, and everything like that. And we talked earlier in the week, Dave, about multiple choice questions. Yeah, and if you relate it to football, it's A happens, you do that. B happens, you do that. But then in any multiple choice question, actually, there's a third option. You do neither of those and show a little bit of flair. And a couple of people on the text feed here have said, we look like we've coached out of Fally, Armstrong and Hirakawa the things that in the early games that we saw them play did give us a little bit of hope that we had signed players, because that goal that Fally scored at Hull, you know, that was good effort, and the one he got against Millwall. So why is there this structure that they can't seem to break out of it, or they're frightened to? They're frightened of him
because that's the way they're being asked to play. It's that simple.
Arsenal told
they're being asked to play a certain way of football that looks really attractive on the eye to a certain point. But what does it lead to? What's the principle? And it's almost like teams are now saying, let them have the ball, let them do their passes. You don't need to worry. There's going to be no danger behind. We will have our moments. In today's game, West Brom, in the first half, they were just passing it around really, really slow. If you were a West Brom fan in the first half, you would have been losing your mind. Like, really? This is what I've paid to come and watch? But they knew that their moment was going to come. And the difference is West Brom's players understood the moment to smell blood. Every single time they had a hint of breaking the press, bang, they were gone. In the first half, we had a moment with Twine when he picked up an interception. He's got a chance to go. No, I'm going to pass it back. and 2 minutes later they score. And the issue is that we don't smell blood, we don't go for it, we are not brave. We are brave in places where it's easy to be brave. We are not direct enough with the ball on the floor, and we are not let's go that way. It's too much round the corner, pass it here. Oh, it looks attractive on the eye, but then where does it go?
Does it look attractive? I mean, you looked. I watched Match of the Day yesterday and watched a bit of Man City and Aston Villa. Now, Man City are a bit, Villa, Man City a bit of a basket case at the moment. But the way Aston Villa played against them, and that's the same Man City players that were beaten all before them. That is what I call exciting front foot football. And that Duran, who's keeping Ollie Watkins out, you know, they're looking for the goal all the time.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and you have said what I call exciting football. Attractive football to some people is passing it here, looking for a gap, going round the corner where you've gone 5 feet that you could have done in one pass. I take the point you need multiple options. And for me, the biggest issue, we are predictable. They know, the other teams know where it's going, when it's going there. We know what we're going to see. You know, I could have said today, oh, Twine's going to cut inside. Teams know what we're going to do, when we're going to do it. Where's the fun? Did anyone have fun watching that game at any point today? It got to the point that the anger was leaving me. It was so laughable. And you spoke about McCrory going up the wing. At one point, Mehmeti went past a player, ran half the pitch, and he's like looking around like, well, I'm going to have to be Santa Claus. I'm going to have to make everyone happy. And their defender said, you know what? I am not going to let you cut inside. He tried to make something happen. It didn't work because there was no one with him. It starts with what players are allowed to do. And right now it is so rigid. And as Neil said, I'm sorry, but to bring off Fally and to bring on Bell, show me something. Put them both together. Show a bit of intent. Don't do 3 for 3. Right, guys, play again.
If Cornick had been on the bench, Cornick and Bell up front as a duo, because
it's fine.
Faults, at least he ran round and you got the long throw.
The difference is Cornick wasn't there today, so with it. But I mean, the commentators, and I know everybody had the issue with the commentary on Sky, wasn't great.
Oh, it was awful.
But they were like saying, "What are Bristol City going to do here?" Even the commentators were like, "This is so pathetic. This is."
I think the commentary was conducted from a hotel room adjoining the Hawthorns. One of them was like listening to a version of Whispering Bob Harris. It was so cool.
Yeah, but I mean, they were like,
well, it was Gareth. The co-commentator was a guy called Gareth Evans. I'd never heard of, but I think if it's the one I looked up, he played for Portsmouth a bit. And then they were saying, as you mentioned earlier, Neil, that Fale, Maulu, Popper, who are the fans, really, we never see the bloke. What made me laugh was when they said, "Well, they've made the long trip up the M5 from Bristol."
It's like the shortest trip.
Trips that we bloody do.
The shortest trip, isn't it?
The biggest thing for me was in the second half. They turned around. The commentators were like, "Well, if Bristol City are going to do anything in this game, they need to start taking some risks. And they need to actually do it." And you're just waiting, and you're just waiting, and you're just waiting. There were times where we broke over the halfway line, and I'm watching 7 West Brom players sprinting back, and there's about 3 of our players, and the midfielders are 20 yards behind, and there's nobody busting a gut. There's no energy. There's no like desire really to actually get anything out of the game, and it just turned into a petulance thing. McCrory can just run in straight lines, can't he?
Yeah.
He either runs directly straight that way or directly straight to get him to actually turn or to do any loops or whatever like that. He just motors down technically, but at least it gives you some sort of physicality. But even he was like off halfway, and then you pan to the coach and you've got Corbyn on the side of the pitch who's all animated, drive,
and
passion,
and
energy.
Liam stood there with his pocket. But then Danny Wilson did the same. We've had a succession of managers that just, you can be.
I think when you're flat as a team, you need somebody in there.
Did Arsene Wenger used to drive them on a bit? Arsenal back in the day.
Yeah, but you had other people that when you had Arsene Wenger and stuff like that, there were more. Now there's only one person allowed on the sideline, isn't it? Back then, you actually had, when he was on, and he had his break, and you had Hogg there, you saw a different dimension.
I didn't want to say that, but I thought there was a different.
Can I just say something?
Yeah, Dave, come in.
I get the fact that there's a couple of, we've had issues at right back with injuries. I get the fact that today Wells was out injured, and there's a bit of mitigation if you're willing to overlook recruitment. But the fact is that across the midfield today, we had a lot of players available. And when selection issues were to be made, he went Twine in the hybrid. And I know what you're saying about Bird pushing more forward, but we have looked better with other players in other positions. If you really wanted to say give you a break, which was the right decision, in my opinion, and you saw what happened when he came on, he looked like, I've got to prove a point here. I've got to be dynamic. My place is under threat. He looked fresh, like he needed that kick up the butt, shall we say. But Twine was not the answer. You've got Morrison on the bench, which has got to be raring to go, thinking, what did I do? Bell, who's played in that position quite a few times for us. But no, we went Twine. Really? Is that what we are? You know, we've got all these options and we keep going back there. How many times do we have to see the same show? It's ridiculous.
Well,
and
the same. Sorry, carry on, Dave.
I was going to say the players don't get a pass for today, but they are not the problem. And as I said at the beginning, who's learning? We're talking about progression season on season. How about progression week on week? You know, how about basics? How about seeing a change? How about not looking to concede chances from a free kick when we've done that last week? How about in the space of a couple of months, not going for the same option, which made us lose 3-0 2 games in a row? What will it take to learn? Because fans aren't stupid. And when you see that pre-game, how many people went, that's the team? Most people went, oh my God, we're going here again. Really? It's ridiculous.
No, there is a general malaise. I mean, I think we've done the game to death. Somebody said, I didn't pick this point up. Did one of their blokes, Holgate, elbow one of ours? Somebody said,
it was Pring in there.
Yeah, he went over the top of him and he caught him his elbow as he went down. It was a bit of dangerous play. I mean, talk about VAR, but it was reckless. I think. Was
that after Knight had been booked for pushing their player over?
No, this was in the first half.
Sorry, right, so that's why.
The only thing that we missed is, like I said, when you came on, showed more purpose and intent, and he did show a bit of flair, pushing the ball through the legs of one of their players, and he put a good cross into the box. And McCrory's powder puff finish, you know, if he'd have hit through the ball, he might have even scored. But it was just such a soft shot. But he showed a bit of intent. I think City's problem is when we're playing against pack defence, we do go sideways, but we do try and force the ball through the centre as well. But we haven't got anybody, like I said in the last pod, who's strong enough to get goal side, or we don't play at goal side and take that ball early, or be able to get past defenders. We're too lightweight. You've got something like Naki Wells, and you get a bit of space and you drop off when you get the first goal against Stoke. It changes the game because you've got an intelligent player who will find space, a bit like Gabriel Jesus did yesterday against Palace. He'll drop off because he'll know that the ball's going to come to him. Yeah. And if it does, he'll have a shot. That's the difference. Very naive, inexperienced forwards. But unfortunately, our fans are going to say that the team very much reflect the manager's maybe language style on the touchline, and that's a big worry for me. That lack of fight. Compare it with somebody like Portsmouth. Sorry to go on a rant, but Portsmouth yesterday, they were getting mothered by Coventry in the first 15 minutes, and they haven't got a lot of their players technically are nothing like ours, but they still turn it around and won 4-1. Just through sheer effort and work rate and building themselves back into the game.
Yeah, lesser players than what we've got. I think, one player that none of us have mentioned in this, who was on for the full 90 minutes, and I don't want to get into a debate about him, and that's Marcus McGuane. Because until I just looked at that name on my team sheet, I can't think of anything he did today worthy of note. Now,
I thought he was solid.
All right, he's solid, which is a sign of a good... That is a sign of a good player sometimes.
He's never going to turn up in the opposition box, but he provides that shield in front of the two.
And he made a really good recovery tackle, I think, as well, from when we lost the ball again.
Okay, so we've got 3 games coming up now in 8 days. Thursday.
You just shake your head at that.
Sunday, Thursday, isn't it? Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah.
Luton at home. Came back with 2 goals in the last 5 minutes the other night and won. Portsmouth at home. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plymouth away.
Joy.
Derby at home.
Brilliant.
Now, when we looked at the 6 games that took us to 20 minutes to go, with 20 games remaining, it was 4 wins and 2 defeats for me, which was the QPR game was a win, so we're minus 2 points. I expected to lose today, right? Coming up Boxing Day, Luton. If we don't win, and people said you mustn't say West Brom is a must-win game, and I think the season's over now anyway, if it wasn't before. But at what point, Neil, I'll ask this to each of you, what point is Liam Manning under pressure?
What point is he under pressure? When we start dropping into the final, into the bottom third.
Bottom third.
Bottom third of the division.
Because we're still 9 points clear. We're 9 points.
I don't necessarily agree with that, because for me, we've won 6 games out of 23 this year, and we've won as many league games as Bristol Rovers.
Yeah,
you know, and
I have to edit that out.
ultimately,
You just swore that.
I'm sorry for bringing up the name, but it is just like
the only time it gets mentioned, I'm probably going to say no. There's always someone worse off than yourself.
Sheridan Robbins on a Bristol City thing, you know, she's like proud of her, isn't she? From the past, it's just like, oh, that's 4 draws in a row. They could easily have been 4 wins, couldn't it? Well, yeah, they could easily have been 4
Is it
losses.
22? No, it's 22 games, I think, not 23.
No,
he's added in the
including
cup game.
the cup game as well.
The cup game.
The Coventry game in the cup. So in 23 games, 6 wins. And realistically, you know, we're not doing anything this. We haven't got a winning mentality, have we? That's as a side.
But then
I just don't think we've got a winning mentality.
Right, let me, Dave.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's born out.
Dave, sorry, Mark. Dave, at what point is Manning under pressure, or do you think he's feeling it a little bit at the moment anyway now?
Well, look, first of all, Luton on Boxing Day. Luton have had a very difficult start to the season. Their manager is essentially fighting for his job. Lose that game, Luton are above us in the league. That tells you all you need to know about where we are right now. Do I think Manning needs to be under pressure? No, not right now. I don't, because at the end of the day, you need to show something. I don't know. Most people accept looking at 6th, it will take a crazy run of form. Why are you getting rid of him right now? Because you're saying we want 6th place. If you're going to invest in an idea, if you're going to invest in something that at its extreme, I don't like, you need to back it, and you need to say, show me something over the next 2 months that convinces me that this is the path. Right now, I think he's under great pressure for himself. From a lot of fans won't be on board, but there's no point in saying he's under deep pressure, because at the end of the day, to get rid of the manager, to get rid of all the staff, it's going to cost money. So you need to be sure there is nothing here. And how many resets do you want? Last, a year ago, it was an issue, a reset, a new brand of football, a new way of playing. What, is not the way anymore? Is it just because of Manning? If we had other strikers that could actually score goals, would it be any different? If the recruitment was better, which it's not been the best, would it be different? How much do we blame Manning? How about other people that are involved in decision making? Because right now, I see a team that has a lot to like about it, but is too soft, is too mentally not at the races too often.
But surely, Dave, that's the manager's. Surely, look, he's been here 14 months now. No, probably not that. It's just 13 months. He's done 13 months, right? As Neil's just said, we've only won 6 games this season, in total. Yeah, we've all said, you said, the way the side's set up, playing with fear, no leaders there. And I look at the players out there today, and you look at who are leaders. Well, I think McNally seems a strong character. Dickey. What's happened to Knight, the leader? Okay, that's not many, but that's 3 who should grab everybody by the scruff of the neck and say, come on. So
the issue is that, as an example, if you want to say that Manning is under deep pressure right now, say, for example, after Luton, it's not a good performance and you get it and you let him go. The answer will be, well, it's the right idea, but it was the wrong manager. And they'll just replace it with a like for like. They won't accept that this method is not the way right now. And right now it needs to succeed or fail on its own terms. We have not progressed in the last year. But if you let go of the manager, the people above will say, well, they weren't patient enough. The narrative is constantly changing. A year ago, it's a top 6 squad. Now it's, I can't change it overnight. Well, in my opinion, am I a fan of what I saw today? Absolutely not. But people need to understand that if this is going to succeed, okay, let's see it. Let's see what you're made of. Show me something more. Not, okay, you're not for next season. Because there's no point right now. There just isn't a point in firing a manager right at this very moment.
No, I wasn't calling for his head, but there's pressure.
No, I know. I took it too far.
And to quote that Dido, an artiste of the early 21st century. This is the 21st century, isn't it? She had a song called "I Won't Go Down with This Ship." I mean, people's reputations are at stake here, and we're talking the head of recruitment, and we're talking about the owner's son, right? And they won't be. Somebody will be going down with a ship long before either of those two do. And for me, Mark, what's your view on this at the moment from a pressure standpoint? And sorry, Mark. People on the text are saying, just see him try something different because he just seems so rigid in his thinking, the process, and everything like that.
Well, we got problems that go outside of the team. So let's look at first of all. Manning will only get sacked if we're under threat of relegation, because they're not a club who sacks managers lightly. We just don't do it. Secondly, we got a problem with FFP. So unless we're suddenly going to sell players, and I think the only player that we could move on in January, if he wants to go and if the offer's right, is Harry Cornick. Will that generate any funds? Not much. To go up the league, we need another striker, because the two players we brought in to replace Tommy Conway just haven't done it. And we're relying on a 34-year-old who's been pulling up trees in my estimation. He might only have 5 goals, but he's played well above expectations. We got injuries in central midfield, the 2 number 6s. We've only got 2 fit specialist number 6s as well. And our defence is starting to make mistakes. So we're too soft. I don't know if a new manager is going to change that, because there's not a lot he can change really, only to lift the players that he's got. And that will only happen, change at the top will only happen if we're under threat of relegation. I don't think that'll happen, but the trouble is, it means, again, we're just drifting along this season, because we'll win a couple, we'll win one and we'll lose a couple for the rest of this season. I can't see much changing until May. Then it'll be up to Steve Lansdowne if he wants to move the manager on and pay up his contract and try somebody else.
I think
you're not going to see. You're only going to see another head coach in a similar template, mid-30s, because that seems to be what they're leaning towards now. The problem is, at the moment, we haven't got the players to play the type of front foot football we want, and we haven't got. Mark, and we haven't even got. Players, we had decent players who could. We had game changers in Alex Scott and Antoine Semenyo under Nigel Pearson. We got nothing of that quality now, and that's a big problem.
I disagree there, Mark. I'm sorry. You said Alex Scott. I never felt he affected the game when we took their pants down Bournemouth, getting 25 million quid for him. Mehmeti can change the game. Yeah, when he wants.
But he's no Antoine Semenyo.
No, he's not, and that's why Antoine Semenyo is in the top. I mean, look,
I think there's certain things that he can do.
All right, Mark, enough.
He drifts in and out as well. Sorry,
Dave.
I think that Mark just made a great point, and that, say, as an example, that lose the next few games and it's not going as they wanted to go, and they made the decision, they would bring in a manager with a very, very similar profile. Right now, the lessons haven't been learned. They're going to double down on this and say, this is the way. It's not. This is not the way. In my opinion, this is not going to end well. But you have to let it play out. And as frustrating as that is, and as much of a waste of life it feels, if you don't let it play out, they will just double down. And you have to see what these people and this team and this recruitment is capable of. Otherwise, they'll go harder, and we will pay the price in the longer term. Because now the answer is we haven't progressed.
There's face saving going on, so they won't know. The manager will not go. We're not calling for it. We're just saying, is an opinion. Is he under pressure? A couple of things I want to say here. I had the pleasure on Thursday at Senior Reds to sit next to Joe Jordan and Rob Newman, for that matter. Interviewed both of them over the lunch, which was really good, and chatting to Joe, and he was saying about players moving on, and he said, with Tommy, if a player wants to go, he's going to go, so Tommy's gone, but Tommy went for the going rate for a mid-ranking championship striker who's going to score between 8 and 15 goals a season. Yeah, Tommy had never. I think he got into double figures one season with us, and he didn't score yesterday, but he's cutting it. So he said, if you lose a player that wants to go, you replace them with quality. And that's all he said, which is typical Joe. He wasn't going to miss himself. And what we've done, we've lost the championship striker and replaced him with two, all the evidence so far, 2 duds. Our get out of jail card, I think, and you talk about FFP, Mark, I haven't seen the goal yet, but our get out of jail card is going to be the sell-on fee we get for Antoine Semenyo. Now, unlikely to be in January, but in the summer, he scored at Old Trafford today as Bournemouth won 3-0 for the second season running up there. If he goes, say, for 40 million, and that's a conservative number.
It's not a massive amount of money.
Well, if it's 20, no, but if we sold him for 10 and we're on for 20%, again, speculation on my part, but that's 6 million quid that comes straight into the coffers. Yeah. And for me, that gives a little bit variability. Cornick going on loan is not going to affect the finances of the club at all. Yeah.
No, if we sell him, which isn't likely, we'd have to get a fee for him. But I mean, it's not going to happen, is it? So
I mean, Cruisers Creek has said here on the text, why do we have to let it play out when we know it's failing? Because we don't own the club, Cruisers. It's their train set. They can do what they like with it, and we turn up. This is what my good friend Peter Wood said to me. He went to the game at the Hawthorns today.
Yeah.
And he said the away fans were very benevolent at the end of it. And then he talking about the players, he said, we've got no winners. And, maybe the vast majority of the fan base are quite happy ticking along as a top 10 championship club. And we just like to see a little bit more exciting football, not the turgid, not working in this establishment, Pep Guardiola style, with second-rate players.
Well, Neil said it, David. Neil said it. We don't have a winning mentality. When you're not, I think it was the same against Watford today. No urgency at the end. We were as urgent as a man curling up on his sofa watching the Christmas movie with the Radio Times and a sherry. It was just that languid. It just does your head in, doesn't it?
Yeah. Friends of mine from around the country always look at Bristol City, and they cannot understand us as a club.
Yeah.
We've had over the last, what are we talking now? 6 years, primarily six years or so, big sales. 125 million pounds of sales has come into this club, player sales. And yet, as a club, we've not once been in the playoffs. We've not even got close to it. They can't. We've got a billionaire owner. We've got this rebuild. Everybody turns up there. Oh, what a fantastic day out Bristol is. Oh, it's a lovely. Look at these facilities. Brilliant. Everything about it. Why the hell are we not at the upper end? Why are we not each season? Fundamentally, it comes down to the senior management at the club.
Of course.
And until we actually do something about that, we're not going to progress, because all that's going to happen is you're going to bring in, if you brought in somebody like a Nigel Pearson into someone like Nigel Pearson, or even Dave Alexander.
Don't start with
Dave Alexander was there as CEO. Dave Alexander, brilliant. Used to be CEO of the year, voted Crystal Palace for years and years and years. He comes into the club, and then you have a chairman come out and say, well, actually, we didn't really like Phil, to all intents and purposes. Phil Alexander, because it was just another voice, and it was a kind of a dissenting voice, and we kind of all, it's nice now because we all agree, don't we? And
useful.
And that's Bristol City. It's just,
well, that's what Liam Manning, when he was self-analysing his performance, because I'm sure he does work 7 till 7, and he goes home and he looks at his computer, and then he talks to Hogg about, how can we do it better? Well, Hogg's not going to say, excuse me, actually, boss, we should do it this way. Or maybe those couple of games when Hogg was in charge, we did see a slightly different way and a slightly different mentality.
To make on Dave's point that he made really well, that whole time, if you look at the team we had at that time, Twine wasn't in it.
There you go.
So we did play a slightly different way in it and all the rest of it. But I don't know. Yeah. I just think as a club, we're just going through the motions, aren't we? And then we'll get to the end of the season and it'll be another 20 to 25 million pound loss.
Yeah.
And then
Where's the
it'll be
where's
like,
the hunger?
you know,
Where's the hunger for success?
no
There isn't, is there?
synergy as it. If we'd have gone down, now, no, I didn't want to go down. I wasn't one of these people that said we would go down. But the reason we didn't go down is because Nigel Pearson, I think, sorted us out. We were on a downward trajectory, and everything in our, the way that we approached the Championship and League One said as much about it. But the opportunities that we've had over the years where we've gone up from League One, whether it be John Ward in the 97-98 season, and then there was interference by Scott Davison, then wasn't it? We bought one too many forwards. We didn't the structure of the team.
We bought Soren Anderson and Adi Akinbaye,
and then Tony Thorpe.
Yeah,
and then we went straight down. And then Gary Johnson came up, and we had the energy, and we didn't push on. We missed out on the players, but the next season we dropped off again, didn't we? And then Cottrell came up, and to all intents and purposes, we could have done an Ipswich like Ipswich did last season with the right investment, the right focus, and all the right support. No, it's not sort of each opportunity we've had over the 25 years to put ourselves in a position to really sort of go on and actually push. We failed. We failed as a club, and we will continue to fail as a club because of the structure that we've actually got in that club at the moment, and the operating costs at the club, the losses at the club. We are, to all intents and purposes, a failing business. And that is really hard to take when I'm taking my two sons to the football each time. And for the last 10 years, we're just going through mid-table. With the
occasional little cup.
It's the hope that kills.
Occasional little cup flirtation. We had 7 years ago.
And when are we ever going to be brave as a club?
Well, that's
when
a
are
good
we
question.
ever be
All
brave
right,
as a club?
one final point. That was your final point,
Yeah.
Neil. Dave, final point for you before we wrap up.
I like what Neil says, because dreams evolve and dreams change over time. If you go back to the early 2000s, people would have snapped it off right now to be a mid-table championship club. But you get to the point where you've been doing that long enough, you want to see more. And right now, you just don't see it season on season, and it's always that magical jam tomorrow. And that jam better taste nice when it comes, is all I can say. But it's like, where is that progression? It's always like, oh, it's coming in a minute, it's coming soon, it's coming soon. And it never, ever seems to come. And when I look back at myself 20 years ago and say, that's where Bristol City are going to be after suffering those League One days, those horrible Colchester's away and losing. It's like, yes, we're established, but that's not the dream anymore. Well, it's challenging.
Yeah. Dave, when you said that, when's it going to come? When's it going to come? I can remember when the Antichrist, that is Mark Ashton, said, when we were doing really well in 2017-18 season, he said, oh, well, if we'd have gone up, we might not have been ready for it. Bloody hell, not ready for it. You grab it with both hands. And that's what we didn't do in 2008.
Here's the point, right? You can be challenging for around about the playoffs, which is something that we're not doing right now. You can be excited by the football and going to a game, which we've had moments where we've played well. It's not revised history, but is it exciting? Is it unpredictable? Ask yourself, when you go to football and when you watch City, how much of it is unpredictable where you're watching the game and you're forward like that? How many times do we get in positions where you're like, wow, this is amazing? Very rarely. Very, very rarely. It's just... It's like computer football, and some of it is attractive to watch, but I don't feel either way. It's like I'm not seeing that real challenge, and I'm also not seeing that riding the wave of momentum, picking up points, City against the world. That's the mentality that you need as a football club, that everyone's on the same page. And I don't feel that. And even from Madrid, I don't feel it. And it's not that difficult for you guys because you go there to the stadium every week.
I'll be there on Boxing Day, obviously with the whole family. So this is our own pantomime, our pantomime equivalent. Mark, final point from you.
Yeah, I'll just say, hope everybody has a fantastic Christmas. Unfortunately, City's hierarchy don't show the hunger and the desire that the supporters do. We keep supporting them because we love the club. Whatever our views, the changing the manager may not sort it, but let's hope we'll give everything for the club, and we deserve a lot better than we're getting. That's all I'll say. We deserve better. And we'll keep reflecting the views of the fans and our observations, and we'll keep being as passionate as our fans are at FBC.
Okay, just to finish, this week. Regular contributor to the podcast since I formed it back in June 2020 in the middle of lockdown. Ian has advised us that he wants to spend time doing other things. I think he's put a post on X. So I just like to say to Ian, thanks for all your support over the last 4.5 years. Things take their course, and it's the right thing to do. So on behalf of, well, myself really, because I don't think you missed a single podcast, thanks for that support, and good luck in whatever you do in 2025. That applies to everybody. I'll be publishing our Christmas schedule because we're not going to let you down by not giving views on every single game. Some of the podcasts might be a little bit short because we've got family commitments and everything like that, a little bit shorter than normal. We'll probably do another mid-season review of sorts, maybe at the end of the transfer window. We're looking forward to the upcoming home games that we should win 3 out of the next 4 at home. Famous last words. And then obviously we've got the excitement of Wolves in the Cup on Saturday, January
that
the 12th.
Is pure excitement. I can tell it in the tone of your voice.
I know. But
excitement.
It's
It's
been
a
it's a
little
bit of a
strong
dawning of a
drink,
new
Andy.
era for the podcast, because we've got some great regulars on anyway, and Ian's got to leave a big gap anyway. But maybe there's some people that would like to come on the podcast that don't feel they're going to be challenged or anything like that, and just want to give their views, because that's what podcasts are all about, is to express opinions. Just that, maybe they're conspiracy theorists, theories or whatever, but it is all about opinions. We all want City to do well. We are frustrated. How we've come across today isn't a knee-jerk. It's just depressing. The enjoyment has gone out of it. You've only got to look at the faces of the fans sometimes, even before the game when it was panning in, and you can see everybody excited about what they were going to see. And 2,500 people went up there today, just before Christmas, when they maybe should have been at home with family and friends, and saw City put in a display that was pretty appalling, really, just not good enough. And who you put that down to it does come down to the manager. And then the next level up, it's up to them what they do about it. But they've put us on this path, and so we shall continue on it. Thanks today for Dave Tovey, Mark Tovey, and Neil, and everybody. Enjoy Christmas Eve, enjoy Christmas Day, enjoy Boxing Day, and we look forward to giving you an update on that on the day after Boxing Day. Will be our update of the Luton game. Thanks a lot, everybody, for listening.